All right, thanks guys for coming back to my channel. So in this video, I'm basically going over all the details, not every single detail, but most of the details about how to plan your banquet and how to calculate it with some accuracy using some simple calculations, some simple math. It's like what the culinary instructor told me when I was in culinary school, 8th grade math. So it's basically some division and some multiplication. Okay, one of the key things you guys do need to learn is learn your weights and measurements. That's learning how many ounces are in a gallon, so forth, and you know how many ounces are in a pound, so you can do all these calculations. So those are the things you got to think of when you're doing this. Trying to figure out these banquets. And when I mentioned in here about figuring out your plates, well, the plates sizes are going to depend on the house you're working for, whether it be the steak size, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner or breakfast, whether it's fish or chicken. So it's all going to factor on those three menus, whether it's going to be a breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and then how much starch you're going to give them. Some places give a lot of starch, but we're talking about banquets. So usually banquets are pretty standard because the cost is pretty tight to what it needs to be for that plate cost. So it's usually pretty standard, but that's something that you will figure out with your management and how much you're pricing that plate out to be, what you're charging your guest to be. So that's where you're gonna have to figure out. So you'll do that once you start messing around with that. You start getting to understand how that works. It'll come to you pretty fast. Okay, so it's just simple math. And let me just tell you really fast. So if you're doing a lunch and it's a 6-ounce salmon or a 6-ounce chicken breast, then you're putting rice on there, whether you scale it out to be 1 cup or half cup. You can measure that out or weigh it out. So you could be half cups. You can weigh it out or measure it out. And the vegetables, depending on if it's just sauteed carrots or some steamed broccoli, you're going to weigh that out on a plate as well. And then you're going to be able to calculate, scale up from there. All the other details will come to you soon enough, but you'll figure that out as we go through. So everything isn't going to be on this video, but I'm trying to cover enough of it that you can get started. So if there's something on there that you didn't get in there, and there was an answer that you were hoping for but you didn't get, just leave it in the comment, and I'll get back to it. And I'm going to make more videos anyway. I'm going to try to break these things down, and like this presentation that I have right here, I'm going to put it in a course and something short you guys can download, and hopefully it'll help you guys. And the more information you give me that you need, the more I can put down for you, and it can help you. And like I said before, a lot of these places don't even worry about, hey, I got to know how to make all these fancy dishes that you see on the Food Network and on the YouTube, and all these celebrity chefs and all these high profile chefs. You got to learn all these crazy sauces and plate designs. No, it's a lot simpler than you think. Yes, it's great to learn that stuff for some special parties, and you want to get to that level. But like I said before, a lot of these places, they already have their own banquet menus. Their recipes are already set. You just basically just gonna mimic that and just repeat that consistently, and teach your staff, your sous chef, and your cooks how to do the same thing. And that's what you want to do. You just want to show consistency and teach them how to do that, and make sure you're doing the same thing as what the owners or whatever the company wants you to do. So don't worry about, I need to know this and that. Once you get up to that level, it's basically a roadmap. They're going to tell you, hey, I want you to do it like this. I want it to be this size and portion, and I want it to look like that. So you're all set. If you can cook basic and you know what you're doing in the kitchen, then you can do that. Creating is another video, and learn how to create and match flavors, sauces, and spices. That'll be another video. So I hope you enjoy this. Like and share, and please subscribe, and let me know, like I said, what you think about the video and how I can help you more in depth, and what you missed in here and you didn't get an answers to. Okay, let's get started. So in this video, we're going to go over how to plan a banquet and how to execute it and calculate everything from the food to the sauces and layouts. So let's go through it step by step. And if you need to pause, just pause and take a look. So what we got here in this presentation, I'll provide step-by-step guide on how to calculate necessary quantities for purchasing and preparing your next banquet. So I just wanted to give you guys a little history on that and on banquets and the origins, as it says here, of where it all came from. So let's go up to the next page here. Let's go through some of this here on profit increase and profit loss. Okay, so now let's run down some guidelines to follow so you guys can be more prepared. And we'll go down through these. Like I said, if anytime you need to pause the video and take a look at what this is, just go ahead and feel free to do so. In time, I'm going to put this all in a short course, and you guys can have all access to it, and I'll put some more detail into it. But this, what I'm showing you here today, is greatly going to help you guys and have more of a vision in your mind's eye of what to do and how to execute it. Okay, so let's go through this. So the meal type, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and why. They're different portion sizes, and breakfast is smaller, of course. And lunch and dinner, let's talk about the proteins for lunch and dinner. Normally for restaurants, if let's say you had a steak or a piece of fish, for lunch it's 6 ounces, and if it was a steak, it was 6 ounces. It's not as heavy as dinner. Dinner is always geared at 8 ounces. So it'd be, the portion size for each dish is basically the protein, how much starch you're going to give it, whether it's going to be rice, pasta, or potatoes, and the vegetables. So you're going to figure out those yourself. So you might do a little demo plating yourself and kind of calculate what that is. The quantity of sauce needed for each item. So, okay, there could be 2 different sauces on the plate. There's never really 3. It's always 2 or 1. So that's going to cover the protein. And you may have another gravy, like if you had mashed potatoes. So let's say you had a New York steak and mushroom sauce, mushroom gravy. Maybe you're not going to use that same gravy on the mashed potatoes. Maybe you're going to have a white gravy on that or something else. So that's what you want to calculate. You want to figure that out, and we're going to go through that. So the necessary equipment and space for holding the food at appropriate temperature. So the equipment, so you got to factor in, okay, am I going to need an emulsion blender? Am I going to need a food processor, a buffalo chopper, or am I going to need a Hobart mixer, to do this particular menu? So those are the kind of things you want to figure out. Let's go into the next one. The number of staff needed preparing for preparation and service. So you want to figure out that, how much help do I need? Don't worry about the front of the house. Just worry about what you got to execute. Okay, the delivery and preparation timeline, including how many days in advance the ingredients needs to be received. Some things whatever the menu is, it may come frozen, so you're going to need to thaw it out. Or it may be a large banquet. If it is the 200, you're going to need a day or 2 to prep for it. So that's one thing you got to figure out. That depends on the menu. So if it's chicken breast, usually chicken breast comes, well, you can get it frozen, but you can buy fresh, and you can get to work on that pretty quick. As soon as it comes in, you can give it to preparation, and your prep cooks can start filleting it out and seasoning. They can do whatever they need to do to it. If it's vegetables, kind of, we're talking about 200 guests here. You're going to want to prep those the day ahead. So anything you can do the day before is going to be a big help to you. Necessary equipment and space for holding food at an appropriate time and temperature. So there's some places that can accommodate holding. Let's say you have a banquet hall and you can serve up to 200 guests, but your kitchen's small and you don't have a big walk-in. So some things you're going to have to get that same day. because you cannot hold all that product a few days in advance. Plus, have the other product there for operations. Say it's for the restaurant, so the normal things you got to have there. So those are the things you got to figure out, So it needs to be things that need to be refrigerated, or there may be dry goods, but you want to calculate that before you order all that stuff all willy-nilly. So think about your storage space on that. So like that, and then if you have to get certain things, like we talked about chicken, if you have to do that whole preparation that day, well, now you have to prepare staff for that. So you may have to bring some of your guys in, 4 or 5 hours prior to the event, and they can execute it the same day it's delivered. Maybe it's the chicken and the vegetables. So as soon as your company, your food purveyor brings it in, right away they start working on it, because say your delivery gets there at 8 in the morning or 9 in the morning, your event starts at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. So you have to consider that. Okay. So the next one here I have is the layout and order of dishes for a buffet style event. For buffet style, like I have in this picture here, normally what it is, you put the plates where you want them to start eating from, that side of the buffet. So if you have a long table, and you're putting the plates over here onto the far left. You basically, how it works is you're going to have your salads there, some bread, and you're going to start them off with the starches. So whether it's 2 types of rice, a pasta, and then you get into your vegetables. The last thing that they'll get to is going to be your proteins, whether it's 1 type of protein or 2 type of proteins. And they usually, for buffet style, the sauce is already on there and stuff like that. Why that is because the first few things they grab, the protein items, are the more high dollar, more expensive items. And you don't want to run out of that. Normally for buffet, a salad and bread, they don't really touch too much the butter. So, I mean, I've done large parties, 200 plus, 500, and they don't hardly touch the salad. What they want is some starch, and they want the proteins. That's what they want to go for. So maybe they'll put a couple leaves of lettuce on their plate just so they can say to themselves they're eating healthy, but they hardly touch it. The only time they touch the salad, and they do the salad if you're doing a plating, because you have to set a plate of salad for them, so they're going to eat it. Normally they eat it. But buffet, if they had a choice, skip the salad. So you don't really go through that much salad in buffet. So remember that layout. You're going to start them off at the beginning of the buffet. You're going to start them off with the salads and bread. And then, as you can see, like in the picture here, the trays of food, your chafing dishes. Then you're going to start them with their starches, whether it's 2 types of starches or 1, depending on the size of the party. But we're talking 200. I would put 2 pans of starches out there. And then you're going to do vegetables. And the last thing that your guests are going to go to is going to be the proteins. So that could be a carving station. And for the buffet, and you're calculating how much you need, you're going to need a server out there. So you're going to have to put a cook out there to control the proteins. So if you're doing, like I say, 6-ounce cuts of salmon, baked salmon, or 6-ounce steaks out there in the buffet, you don't want to leave that to them grabbing that on their own. You have to control that. So you're going to put a cook out there, and he's going to give 1 piece of salmon as soon as they come around with their plate. The rice and all the other stuff, the salad, you don't have to monitor that. Let them get as much as they want with that. But when it comes down to the protein, that's your real count. That's what you have to watch out for. Because if it was left up, if it was just open, they would grab like 3 steaks or 2 steaks. Same thing with a fish. So that's what you have to watch out for. So be careful of that. Always put somebody in charge of controlling that. So let's see right here, the amount of bread and butter needed for all tables and guests. So it's usually 1.5 per person, because they eat like 1 to 2. Or like I said, some people nowadays, they don't even touch the bread. You can put bread in the buffet line on the table, and they can help themselves. You put tongs out there with some butter chips, and they can get what they need. Or you can put the bread and butter directly on the banquet tables themselves, and they can help themselves. And then you can do that calculation. So if there's 10 people on one round table for the banquet, if you have a seating of 10 people, then you probably want to put maybe 15 rolls of buns down there, of bread rolls, I'm sorry. And you can always refill that, but usually that's enough. Okay. So the type of quantity and desserts to be served. So that's going to depend exactly what it is. If they're individuals, because they could be already pre-cut petit four desserts, or could be individual like pecan pies, or you could do sheet pans of cakes, large sheet pans. I think it's 18 by 22. So you have to calculate that. And always for buffets, you always want to go like about 10% over the margin. So if you're preparing for a banquet of 200 guests at the buffet, don't try to prepare just exactly 200. Do about 220 or 230 sometimes. Because if it's a buffet, people are going to get up twice sometimes. Okay. And it's okay for them to hit the area with all the proteins twice, but you got to make sure that everybody was fed already. That's usually how the rule of thumb is in every house. As long as the whole room got fed, everybody ate, and you're coming up for seconds and you want another steak or something, that's fine, But if there's a whole couple of tables that haven't eaten yet, and that person is coming up again for seconds because they're still hungry, then, you kindly, in the nicest way, tell them, okay, sir or madam, we'll take care of you. Let us finish out these other tables that have to be served, because sometimes they'll go through the buffet line. Usually there's somebody at the beginning of the buffet line that you put there that's monitoring. They're usually front of house. They're monitoring. So they're helping the guests. They're keeping the buffet clean. They're changing out spoons, any spillage, they're cleaning it up. So they're always there at the buffet line. Those people could be the ones having the guest wait. And normally too, depending on what kind of house it is, they're excusing the tables by number, like table 5 or table 8, or the Johnson's table, or, they'll name them off whoever's table it is, and they go table by table and them eating. Because you don't want everybody can't just jump up and eat. You have to control that. Okay, so just know that. And here at the bottom we have the overall time needed for the event from start to finish. So what I mean by that is what your window is, your feeding time window. Because the banquet starts at 5, let's say, hypothetically, and dinner's served at 6 or 5:45. And that usually the maitre d' or somebody is coordinating with the executive chef and letting him know, okay, we're still on schedule for 5:45 for service, for the dinner to come out. So your table is already ready. Your chafing dishes, let's say you're going to light those like 20 minutes before you're dropping food. So the sternals are all lit and they're getting hot. Your food is in the warmer. And the service is, for the dinner service, is probably, let's say, another 40 minutes. So that's how long your food's out there, because that's pretty much a time frame as for everybody to go through the line, the buffet line. So you're ready when he says go, because he may push it back. So and so didn't show up, or maybe they're making a speech. So there's some things you have to wait, because you tell them to give me a window, give me like 15 minutes heads up. If we're still at 5:45, tell me 15 minutes that it's still good, so I can start my vegetables. Say you need to drop your vegetables or finish something off at the oven last minute, or even sauce something before it goes out. You put sauce on your fish or your meats. So those are the things. So everything has to be timed like that. And when it's ready, 15 minutes before, you're already finished. You started your vegetables, you steamed them, you pull them out, you got butter on them, and there's another person putting sauce on the other meats that go out, and you got a couple of runners, they're dropping it in that order that I said earlier, starting with, because they're going to ask you, starting with the rice, the vegetables, and so on and so forth, and the salads out there. And if you're the chef, you're going to go out there and go check out that line, make sure it's how you want it, and the presentation looks good, everything's laid out in the order it needs to be, so you can okay it. And then you give the signal, okay, let them come. So just know that. Okay, now get into the meat potatoes of everything. This is where I don't think, for me, anyway, it's not too complicated, but you'll get the hang of it once you know your numbers and you learn the basic fundamentals of this. So this is the calculating part. So let's say we're basing, like I said, your event is 200 guests, and this is how pretty much you're going to figure everything out. Okay. So let me kind of just read off the top of what we're doing here. So let's start with the salads. So to make 200 salads, we need to determine the total ounce weight of all salad ingredients: lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, croutons, if we're using them, red onions, carrots, and dressing. Okay, and order enough produce by the case to fulfill that amount. Okay, to calculate the total ounce weight of ingredients needed to make 200 salads, we can use the average size of one salad. So the average size of one salad, like mixed greens, normally it's mixed greens. You can have some there as well. Is 2 ounces of mixed greens, let's say. We're just going with mixed greens. Okay, so 2 ounces to start with mixed greens. That's one person. This is one salad, an amount for one person. 1.5 ounces of tomatoes. Now, like I said, what I put here, this is hypothetical. You can calculate this on your own, depending on how big or how much you want your salad to be, because it could be a salad entree. So it'd be a little bit bigger. So you put it on the plate, you're pretty much calculating it by weight. But on average, once you do enough of these, you're going to know this is how much I need. So here, these are your numbers. So 1.5 ounces of cucumbers, 1.25 ounces of carrots, 1 ounce of red onions, and 2.5 ounces of salad dressing. So we can then multiply these amounts by the number of salads we need to make. Okay, so that's your base number for the salad. Okay, to calculate the total ounce weight of the ingredients needed to make 200 salads in pounds, we can use the following formula. Okay, so here's how we do it. Okay, guys, I think that what I needed to do was kind of break it down a little more clear for everybody. So I'm going to try to do that right now for you guys. Let's take a look here. As we have the mixed greens are 200. It's 200 guests. Okay, so you got 200 salads times 2 ounces per salad. So you got to imagine that's going to be on the plate, 2 ounces of salad, and we're thinking mixed greens. Okay, that's a lot of salad. You may want it a little bit smaller than that, or depend on whatever the menu is. But let's just stick with 2 ounces for now. So let's do the math together. Okay, so if I got 200, I'm going to punch that in there. 200, and what are we doing? Times 2 ounces, and that's going to equal 400 ounces. Okay, or 25 pounds. Okay, So how do we get the pounds? Well, you're gonna, that 400, you're gonna divide it. Whoops. Let's go back to the 400. 400 divided by 16 because there's 16 ounces in a pound, correct? So let's get that division. So there's your 25 pounds we were just talking about. Okay. So I was saying earlier, I know that I used to buy from Cisco mixed greens, and they come in a small box, and it's called a pillow. I'm sure you guys seen it because you're in the industry, and they're usually around 3 pounds per case. So how I need to figure out how many cases I got to order. I got 25 pounds, but I don't know the case size. Well, you're going to figure out that case size by going online and looking at the Cisco website, or just ask your sales rep. But I know they're 3 pounders. So I want to do some more division. So I'm going to divide that by 3. Okay, divide that by 3 because it's 3 pounds to a case. And it equals 8.33. So let's round that up to just 9 cases. Okay, so it's closer as 8.5 cases, but obviously we can't buy a half case. So let's just say I need 9 cases. So I'm going to need 9 cases for 200 salads because they're 2 ounces per salad. Okay? Okay, perfect. So let's go on to the next one, tomatoes. So it's 200, right? 200 times, and we're putting 1.5 ounces of tomatoes to make that salad. So it's times 1.5 ounces, okay, equals 300 ounces, okay? And to get that 1875 again, we're gonna divide that by 16 because there's 16 ounces in a pound. So there you go. There's your 18.75. Okay, so obviously that's going to be 19 pounds. So I know that cases of tomato are usually 20 pounders or 20 pound cases. So one case should be enough, but you need to consider that you're going to have a little bit of waste with that. You know, you're going to have a little bit of waste. And somebody's not always going to cut the tomatoes right. So we're talking about a couple of wedges or maybe some large diced tomatoes on there. But you got a little bit of core in there. So just factor that. So just to make things safe, I would probably just order 2 cases and I probably would get what I need. You know, obviously I only need around 20 pounds of tomatoes to make all these salads for 200. The rest of tomatoes I know I can use in the restaurant for other things, but just so we don't have, or just so we have enough, I'll get 2 cases. Obviously I'm not going to need 2 cases, but I know that 2 cases is more than enough. Okay, so it's the same thing. It's the same calculation for the cucumbers, obviously, because it's right here. It's 1.5 ounces, so same amount of weight on the plate. Okay, and the carrots. Okay, so it's a little smaller in the carrots. So let's go to the carrots. 200 guess times 1.25 of carrots per salad equals 250 ounces. So I want to divide that by 16, and I know I need 15, well, basically 16 pounds of carrots. So carrots, depending on what kind of carrots you're going to buy, usually it's going to be a 20-pound case. They could be large horse carrots, which are mostly used for, like, you know, stews and stuff like that. They're not the nicest carrots. Or you're going to get baby carrots. So most likely for nice salads, you're going to get some baby carrots. Unless you're going to use those horse carrots and shred them into like matchsticks and stuff like that. It depends on what you want to do. But if we're looking at this calculation of 1.25 ounces, you know you need at least 16 pounds for the 200 salads and you're going to put that much on there. But you want to keep to the 1.25 ounces per salad on that. So what my whole point is, you're going to need to stick with 16 pounds for all this. Okay, so let's say here, red onions, 1 ounce. Obviously, that's pretty simple. I think you guys can do the math on that. So let's do that again. 200, times 1 is 200 divided by 16. It's 12.50. Okay, so 12 pounds, 0.5. So just go to 13 pounds of red onions. But you're probably going to want to buy 15 pounds of red onions. Why? Because you're going to have a lot of waste with red onions. You got to peel them, quite a bit to get to the product that's useful, that's edible. So consider that. It's not going to be an exact, I need exactly this much. Don't ever buy exact. You always want to buy a little bit more. Okay. Okay, let's get to the salad dressing. Okay, so salad dressing here. This is, I think, what confuses you guys here. So let's do, it's 200 times, that's how much dressing we're putting on there. So that's the amount of ounces. So for liquid, we're going to divide this. What does it say here to do? It says, well, I just know from here that I can do the math from here into gallons. So I know I need, don't worry about the rest of this stuff because that's going the long way. So divided by 128, because that's how many ounces are in a gallon, we need 3.5 gallons, which is, if you want to round that up to 4 gallons, that's what I would do. You know, you're not going to buy a half gallon of nothing. So that's how much you need for that guess, the party of 200. Okay, so it's the same thing. Let's say we have 900 guests, okay? And we're times it times the same amount, okay? And we're giving them 2.25 ounces on each salad plate. And we're going to find out how many ounces. That's how many ounces, okay? It would be 2,025 ounces, okay? So let's divide that by gallons. So we need to see how much we got to make or how much we got to buy. So 128 is the amount per gallon. Bam. So I know I need 15.82 gallons for 900 guests to buy. So 128 is the amount per gallon. Bam. So I know I need 15.82 gallons for 900 guests. Obviously, that's going to be 16 gallons. And what I tell you, you kind of want to go a little bit more, just in case somebody spills it, or something happens, or somebody's putting a little bit too much on some of the salads and you don't want to run short. So I would just round that up for such a large party. I wouldn't go 16, I'd go 17 or 18. And you can always use the extra dressing somewhere else, in the kitchen, for something else in the menu. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that you watched it all the way through. I know it was long, and I actually have to make this into 2 parts, and I'm trying not to make it boring so you guys can stay listening to it. Like I said, it is rather long, but I will put up another video for the second half of that to explain things a little bit more in depth again, and I do apologize for it being too long, but it's so much content and so much information I got to give to you guys in such a short time. It's really hard to crunch it into a 15-minute video. So like and subscribe, and I will post the second part up as soon as I get it finished. And thank you, and God bless.